Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Guys YouTube channel where the Force is family. I am Master Paul, and welcome back to Animation Friday. So, this Animation Friday is going to be a little bit different. Unfortunately, Matt Cave is not able to join us because he's not feeling well, and none of the other guests that I reach out to were able. Well, I haven't heard from Obsession, but we'll see what happens. Maybe he might join. So it's just going to be Jonathan and I tonight for now. But if anyone watching this has seen the Citadel Arc of the Clone Wars and remembers it well enough to discuss it with us, you're invited to come on the show and talk about it with us. The link is right here. It's pinned at the top of the chat. So while we wait for Jonathan to get in here, let's see who is who's in chat. So Leia Rose was first. Thanks for joining us, Leia. And Phil is he says he's seen it. If you want to talk about it, man, come on in. And of course, Phil with all the usual hashtags. Cobra Disney Jedi says, "Hey Paul, running a little late, I see." Yeah, this show was very much last minute thrown together, pretty much. But hey man, like I said, if you remember if you have seen and remember well the Citadel Arc of the Clone Wars, you're invited to join and talk about it with us. The link to talk about it is in the pinned comment in the chat. And like I said, Phil with the usual hashtags of hashtag justice for Star Trek 5, hashtag Picard does not suck, hashtag X-Wing, hashtag cash money love Star Trek 5. Skyrim there's no ogres in Skyrim, so this one doesn't make sense. And we need more Skyrim gameplay. We will have more Skyrim gameplay, probably not tonight, but we will see what happens. And Phil says he's going to switch to PC and join. Okay, good. All right, so we are talking about the Citadel Arc of the Clone Wars. And this one had some pretty interesting things happening with it, sort of things that get started now that pay off later on in the saga as a whole. So there's 3 episodes we're talking about here. Those are The Citadel, Counterattack, and Citadel Rescue. And real quick, hello to Phil McCracken. What's up, man?
How's it going?
Doing well. And because you came in and I just read off the hashtags you said, I'll read them again for you. Hashtag Justice for Star Trek 5. Hashtag Picard is awesome. Hashtag Cash Buddy loves Star Trek 5. Why is Skyrim for the ogres? There's no ogres in Skyrim.
Orgs. I meant to type orgs.
Oh, orcs. I've legit never played as an orc.
You've never played as an orc. Oh, Lordy. You got to play one time as an orc.
We'll see. And you said we need more Skyrim gameplay. I don't think so tonight. I think tonight we're just going to do this stream and then call it a night. But we will see what happens.
Oh, real quick on that. Did you manage to get all your mods fixed for the one you had issues with?
Yes, basically I had to do some console command stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And Jonathan's finally with us. How are you, John?
Good.
Okay, good. All right. So, and Matt Cave says, unfortunately, I sound like Muttley from the Laugh Olympics right now. I don't know what that means, but I wish you would. I hope you feel better, man. And I miss you. And we'll see. Oh, Crit says, hashtag Phil loves Picard. I got to play it. Where is it? Well, we'll start with this one. And of course, the classic.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship? I said, what does God need with a starship?
Jim, what are you doing? I'm asking you a question.
There you go.
I love that clip. It never gets old.
Okay, my response to what does God need with a starship is, why wouldn't God need a starship?
We'll talk about that after the stream, John.
I like Epic John. I like Epic John.
I earned the
This
first
is
part of my
the
name.
first time you two have talked, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, so yeah, John, this is Phil. He
Hello.
is Phil. That's the best way I can explain it. All right, so like I said, we are talking tonight about the Citadel Arc, and those episodes are, there's 3 of them: the Citadel, Counterattack, and Citadel Rescue. So as always, we'll go around the horn, and John, you can kick us off. Overall, what would you say your thoughts are on this arc?
I would be it's like the Mortis arc, where I would be content if it was just one episode and they get out, it all goes to plan, it's fine. But just the 2 extra episodes, adding more character growth and the first chronological appearance of who will become to be known Grand Moff Tarkin is really fun to see.
Of course. By the way, hello to Felix Kiros, who says, "Hello, my friends. I'm working on my theology master thesis. I hope you succeed with that, man." I'm very excited for next weekend. Can't wait to see you, Paul. I can't wait to see you too. And speaking of people I can't wait to see next week, Coach's Archives is in chat saying, "Star Wars guys, episode 6, Return of the White Cable." Yeah, we had to go back to this cable. For a time, I was able to get my AirPods to work with my computer, but then the sound quality, for whatever reason, went to crap with the connection. So we're back to these. And I know the jokes
May
are
I
going to come
suggest
now. Oh my
something?
goodness, this thing looks like it's 10 feet long or something.
May
When
I
you
suggest
go-
something?
When you go to the EBN cabin, I have a funny feeling Coach is going to hold up a white little string headset you got there, an identical one for you. Maybe a different color. Maybe he'll have a different color for you.
We'll see what happens. All right. So, anyways, Phil, your thoughts on the Citadel arc?
I love this arc. I think if you're talking about just the clones and their story, this is one of the best arcs they have in all of the Clone Wars.
Okay.
That's just my personal opinion, but and I like the introduction of Tarkin, seeing him for the first time, and just seeing his demeanor is pretty much the same as in The New Hope. Might
Yes.
not be a Moff, but he has the same demeanor. So it's nice to see how he evolves and how he gets through in the Clone Wars, and later on in the Bad Batch, you see how he rises to position.
Exactly.
So I really like this arc.
All right.
Man.
So, oh yes.
So, you all are going to be going and having fun in Nashville, and I'm just going to be staying home.
Well, someone's got to take care of the dog, John.
I know. And I can't miss any more school because I missed pretty much 1 week for when we went to go see Michael, and then I missed another week for the foot injury directly after that.
Of course. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the recap of these episodes, starting, of course, with the Citadel. So the whole point of this arc is how there's a Jedi Council member. His name is Evan Piell, and he has been tasked with finding these secret space lanes. I believe they're called the Nexus lanes or something. And they are such important space lanes that whoever knows of them will be able to maneuver their troops better, and it ultimately tips the scales in favor of who has control over them. So he's been captured by the Separatists because they want that information. And so Anakin and Obi-Wan are assigned with, the clones to go and rescue him. And Ahsoka wants to go along, but Anakin doesn't want her to go along, saying, "This mission is too dangerous. I want you to stay here." because this isn't like a training sort of mission. This is a do or die sort of mission. But Ahsoka counters him saying, I feel like you're being overprotective of me. And I feel like it's also wrong of you to pick and choose when I risk my life. That should be my choice. So right off the bat, do you think Anakin was right to keep her? Basically, who do you think was right here? Anakin for wanting to keep her out of this mission, or Ahsoka for wanting to be there?
I'll let John go first.
Phil, I was just gonna say, let's see what you think, and I'll fight the opposite side.
Okay. I think personally it's a role reversal because you hear the same thing from Anakin with Obi-Wan. Personally, I think the Jedi Master, whoever's the teacher, has to be the one to decide what they can and cannot do. Regardless of the Padawan thinking what he can and can't do, yeah, if they think they're being held back, that's their prerogative. But I think the Jedi Master needs to know not only are they capable, but are they mentally capable? Like he said, this is a do or die mission. If it's requiring you giving up your life for the mission to succeed, it's easy to say, yes, I can do it. But when you're actually there in the moment, that's a totally different story. So personally, I think it's a role reversal. And like with Obi-Wan and Anakin arguing who can do it, and if he was ready, Obi-Wan was right. And on this one, I technically think Anakin was right.
So I gave it more thought with why you were saying what you were saying, and I agree with you, but I'm still gonna fight the other side for the sake of discourse. I think that Ahsoka really did end up learning something from this mission.
And as we see later in this arc, she does play a pretty major role. But we're getting ahead of ourselves with that. So the plan, as it's originally stated in this arc, is Evan Piell is being kept in a place called the Citadel, a prison specifically meant for holding incarcerated Jedi and torturing them. And they mention that around the planet there are these life form sensors that can sense any life form aboard any ship, and they won't be able to sneak in through those sensors. So the idea is that Obi-Wan, Anakin, and the clones going with them carbon freeze themselves and get loaded onto the ship as cargo. And then R2 has 3 reprogrammed B1 battle droids that will serve as the pilots, the face that the prison sees to let them in. So that goes according to plan. They manage to slip down to the planet without anyone suspecting. And then something strange happens. Well, I say strange, but something I really didn't understand. Everyone gets released from the carbonites, and seemingly they're fine. Yet when Han Solo was released from his carbonite in Return of the Jedi, he was in a major bad way. He was pretty much blind. He looked like he was having bad chills. He was sweating really bad.
I think because he was in the carbon freeze a lot longer than what they were in.
Also,
right.
I think that the Jedi's force and training and the clones' training and just their overall nature probably prevented just a little bit of that carbon freezing. But they did know about it.
Okay.
In fact,
I
Obi-Wan
Also,
thought
one other
that
thing,
he
it
had
might
it.
be just throwing it out there. When Darth Vader had the carbon freeze prepared for first Han Solo, uh, I don't think care was put into it that if he ended up blind or hurt from it, it wasn't going to affect Darth Vader in any way. Whereas this was planned, and I think the ability to freeze without maybe hurting people, they had the time to to plan the freezing, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that. So yeah, all of that put together makes sense. So like I said, they're all let out of their carbon freezing. And by the way, hello to King Thunderstar. Thanks for joining. They're all let out of their freezing. And by the way, Matt Cave, anything, I know you're not able to join us tonight, but anything that you're able to say that you wanted to say live, feel free to say in chat and we will read it off. So they're let out of their carbon freezing, and surprise, surprise, Ahsoka is in there with them. And Anakin, of course, is like, "What are you doing here? I told you to stay at the Jedi Temple." And Ahsoka was like, "Master Plo assigned me to be here. He assigned me after you had already been carbon frozen." And so Obi-Wan and Anakin kind of have no choice but to be like, "Fine." So they start their approach, and they're trying to find a way into the interior of the structure. And immediately, it's a good thing that Ahsoka was with them, because getting into the structure involved crawling into a tight spot to unlock a door that only Ahsoka could get into. So she is able to unlock the door, and they manage to get in. And meanwhile, the droids with R2 are supposed to wait aboard the shuttle and pick them up at a certain area. So at a certain point, the warden, who, by the way, if I didn't know any better, I would almost say that that warden was a Nagri from the Heir to the Empire series. Rook, that character. He looks like, at least what I picture in my head, like what Rook would look like. Although I know Rook is in Star Wars Rebels and he looks much different than that. So anyways, they managed to find Evan Piell, and they managed to get him out of there. Although to get to him, they had to go through a whole bunch of different booby traps, like an electrified wall that just moves down the hallway, which takes out one of the clone troopers. And another clone trooper earlier had passed away during the climb up.
Well, this is actually, this and a couple of the other deaths that happened in the for the clones are a good
Hey, John,
example.
I think you're hearing playback from my...
Can I continue what I was going to say? So this is a good example of a writing technique which I believe is called a red herring. And pretty much a random character that nobody cares about dies.
Hey,
Pretty
John,
much
John,
just
stop for a moment. Stop. Hold on. Why am I... Oh, wait a minute. I realized it was on my end. I accidentally had the YouTube tab for this stream pulled up and the sound was turned on. Okay, so my bad. I thought it was on your end, John.
all right. So
All right, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
pretty much this writing technique is when a random character that either hasn't been introduced yet most of the time or nobody cares about is killed off just to show, hey, this is war, there is death.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much
Because
the red shirt trope. of the original series, right, Phil?
I don't think he's here right now.
I agree. Yeah, the reason I mute myself is so that way people talk, I can unpause. But yeah, I agree, Paul. It's uh, pretty much like that. It would have been neat if there was like another unknown Jedi that was along with the mission, and sadly they would got killed because the only thing I hype about all Clone Wars, it's always seems like 99% of the time it's the clone that always gets killed. you know, unfortunately, yeah. The
We're
clones
meant
seem
to
to
be
be the
expendable.
abused ones. Would have been different. Like I said, they're not going to kill Obi-Wan. They ain't going to kill Anakin. They ain't going to kill anybody like that. But a tag along Jedi or a Padawan assigned to the mission, and maybe they got killed by that little electronic thing going down the hallway. Something like that. It would have added more, but it's fine. It's fine. Like I said, the clones are numerous, and they seem to be always the one that gets taken out.
Of course.
Well, they're meant to be expendable.
Yes. So, anyways, they rescue Master Piell, and he reveals that he has half of the data that they need memorized. The other half was split with his captain, so they have to go rescue him. And who happens to be their captain but Captain Wilhuff Tarkin, the guy that we would later know as Grand Moff Tarkin. So, as far as this being the first timeline appearance of Grand Moff Tarkin, what did you think of how he was introduced and the way that they portrayed him at first?
I honestly felt that it was in line with his character in A New Hope, because he was very cynical of the Jedi, and he didn't want to offend Anakin, but he still wanted to get his point across that the Jedi are flawed. They shouldn't be leading the war.
Okay, fair enough. Phil?
I just have to make a comment about his on the Clone Wars. His first appearance, that hairstyle with his hair up like that. That they could have did better with his hair, but
Yeah, and speaking of that, let me find a picture. This is another thing I didn't. Let me find something real quick. Okay, so he looked different than how he looked in the Bad Batch. In fact, someone else on Quora just brought this up too. Here, I just pulled it up right now. I'm going to share my screen real quick. This is from Quora. It says, "Why does Moff Tarkin, who was young during the Clone Wars, look so old in the Bad Batch when the Clone Wars only recently finished? Tarkin was 42 to 45. Excuse me. During the Clone Wars, he would have been 45 at the time of the first Bad Batch episode, and 64 at the Battle of Yavin. The difference is perhaps not so great as you think between the two appearances." So yeah, it just he looked a little different here, and I don't know why.
I will only say this, and it's not necessarily have to do with people being in war and in stressful situations. People age differently. I know he's human, but even in that case, people age differently. There are people that go gray at age 30, and sometimes they go gray because of stressful situations or just naturally. I think in Moff or Captain Tarkin here, he's just aged, maybe because his previous experience coming up in the ranks, or it's just genetics. He just happens to be in his DNA that he ages earlier than what he's supposed to. But I think with like I said, when you first see him, we don't get a young Tarkin. It would have been nice to get a young Tarkin, like maybe his 20s, maybe as a lieutenant or a captain. We still get him, kind of like a middle aged here. So, you know, uh,
I bet
only thing I would say about his looks, age wise, maybe he aged quicker. It might have been for certain reasons, or it might be natural. That's the only thing I can think of. But his hairstyle, if you notice, the hairstyle just looks, for me in the Clone Wars, looks a little bizarre. It looks like they got it right in the Bad Batch. I think that look of Tarkin looks good, but and here it looks. And I know people different times, we all have different hairstyles, but that hairstyle, that was the one thing that got me, the hairstyle of Tarkin.
Okay, yeah. John, anything you want to add to that?
So, I have a bit of a joke about it.
That's why I told John not to stream from that room, but yeah. Matt Cave says I started getting gray hair at 21. So yeah, that further proves your points, Phil.
Well, I started to age at let's say age. Start getting gray at about 26, 27.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, it started to go from there. So, but I still have my hair, so I don't care if it grays, just as long as I got it. So
that's kind of how I would think of it too. I'd rather be gray than bald, but I'm likely going to be bald because Dad's bald.
it's genetics, and mostly it's based upon the mother side. If your mother's side, they tend to keep their hair, then you're okay. Father's side, okay, but there's other things that play into that: medication, operations. I always say, people to get operated on. Some people, when they get underneath anesthesia, I believe it causes hair loss. I had family members that had hair, and then after numerous operations, they start losing their hair. So, but like I said, that age thing that happens to everybody. So,
Okay, fair enough. John, what were you going to say before the clock interrupted you?
So, I bet the smart kids at the high school I'm currently going to and the high school that you went to are going to have gray hairs by senior year.
Who knows?
But I do think that he could have started to go gray because Dad's 47, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he already has gray hair.
True. All right, well then let's go ahead and continue on with the discussion. So that's pretty much the end of episode 1, is them getting to the people that they want to rescue and busting them out of the cells that they're holding them in. Episode 2 begins with them splitting up and going in different directions. Obi-Wan, Master Piell, and some of the clones with them, including Cody, they go through the inside of the building through, I guess, air vents, and Anakin, Ahsoka, Tarkin, Rex, Fives, and Echo. This episode's important for Echo, by the way. They go along sort of like an underground, sort of outside ventilation system. And it's all about how the warden of the facility is trying to find them, and he even gets a couple calls from Count Dooku saying, look, you really need to find them, otherwise I'm going to come down there and fix this situation myself.
Fine then, I'll do it myself.
Yes, exactly. So during this episode, it's a bunch of different battle scenes. For example, there's a scene where the different probe droids catch up to all of them. One catches Obi-Wan's crew, and so the security doors around them start closing, and the the security doors start closing, and one of the clones gets caught in the door, and unfortunately dies from that. Which, even though they didn't show it, the fact that it happened, I'm gonna chalk that up to another Clone Wars is for kids moment. Actually, I'm gonna make it 16. No, it's gonna be 15 for now.
Why would it be 16?
I was thinking the electrical field that goes across, but slightly less, I would say. By the way, hello to Alice83 Ashla. Thank you for joining us.
Well, kids can enjoy darker stories.
You're right.
Just
But the idea that it's a cartoon show and that it's just meant for kids, no. There's some
Yeah.
pretty brutal stuff that happens in this show, especially in the latter seasons. By the way, there is one detail I forgot to mention in the second episode. One of the booby traps that they try and get through after they've rescued who they're going to rescue is the ceiling becomes magnetized, and everyone's weapons flies out of their hand, and Anakin himself flies up to the ceiling because, remember, his right hand is metal. But they're able
because I
to get
wasn't
out of that.
strong enough.
It's
because I wasn't strong enough.
What do you mean?
My profile picture.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that was just a cool detail I had to mention. So eventually all forces sort of converge back to where the shuttle is, and they had to improvise and sort of adapt their plans as they go, but they make it back. However, by now, the warden has completely gotten onto what they're attempting and is setting a trap for them at the shuttle site. So this big battle ensues where they're trying to get to the shuttle, and ultimately the shuttle explodes when a turret shoots it, and Echo was pretty much at the doorstep of the shuttle because he tried to lead the team forward. He tried to get the shuttle up and running, and he was killed. I have to use quotation marks now because of Bad Batch. He was killed in the explosion. Now,
He was probably just knocked out.
so Phil, did you see this arc when it first aired?
When it first aired,
Okay.
there was one thing I wanted to add, and I'm not sure if it was the second episode or first episode, but back to where I was talking about how Anakin switches roles with Obi-Wan and Ahsoka assumes the Anakin role. When they're doing their climb and they come to the one spot where she's supposed to throw the bombs and they didn't go off right away, and her and Anakin get into the little argument. Do you remember that part?
Yes.
It's kind of reminiscent of Obi-Wan and Anakin in their usual arguments. Just its role reversal. It's now Anakin acting like Obi-Wan and Ahsoka acting like Anakin. I love that switch. But now it puts Anakin in a situation. Now I understand a lot of the things Obi-Wan's doing and saying, and here he has somebody that has a tougher will, just like he does when he being kind of put in his place by Obi-Wan. So it's nice to see that, it's nice to see that.
Absolutely. So everyone is completely shocked by Echo's death, but Obi-Wan sort of rallies everyone saying, look, we need to keep moving. Let's just keep moving, which is what they do. And that leads into the third episode. By the way, am I moving through these too fast?
I think you're going just on time, to be
You're
honest.
fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
So the third episode, now they've called for help from the Jedi Council. So Plo Koon, Saesee Tiin, Adi Gallia, and Kit Fisto are on their way with 3 Republic cruisers and all of the soldiers and fighters that are included. But so Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Evan Piell, Tarkin, and the clones have to hold off long enough for them to get there. They have to make their way to this island surrounded by lava as their extraction point. So they're trying to make their way there, and of course there's different trials that they have to face. For example, the warden sends out these weird, for all intents and purposes, they're essentially tracking dogs, although they don't look like dogs. And so they're trying to evade those. Eventually it comes to the part where they have to make their stand and take down the dogs and the droids. And again, they split up. All the Jedi stay back to handle those, while the clones and Tarkin continue to press on. And another big thing happens here where Evan Piell gets killed, and because he gets caught by the throat by one of those dog things. And so he tells Ahsoka his half of the codes before he passes away. So Ahsoka reunites. Actually, before Evan Piell passes away, I do also have to mention she admits to Evan Piell that she lied to Anakin. Excuse me. She lied to Anakin about being assigned to this mission. She never was. She went along of her own accord just because she felt like she needed to be there. So what did you guys think when you saw that reveal?
Honestly, I was just surprised that Master Piell was all like, it doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, that's kind of expected. He's dying at that point, is to be like, so what? You're here now. Phil, your thoughts?
I think, and like I said earlier, she's pulling the Anakin move. This would have been something that Anakin would have done if Obi-Wan went on a mission. I mean, that, like I said, to me, it's a perfect, with this arc, it's a perfect role reversal. Anakin is getting the stepping in Obi-Wan's shoes. Ahsoka stepping in Anakin's shoes. Every conflict they have along the way, from the very beginning when she gets told no, she can't go, is Anakin move by sneaking to go. The confrontation where they had, like I said, when she was throwing the bomb and the bombs didn't go off right away, and they had their little argument. That's Anakin and Obi-Wan's type of arguments.
Yes.
And here, a Jedi's dying, and she's telling him, well, I really wasn't supposed to be on this mission, but here I am. And that would be something I would say if there was a similar situation, Anakin would be. But I think a smart Jedi would always say, well, it's the will of the Force. So you're here because of the will of the Force. So,
yes.
But it like I said, it's important when you're watching this episode, these 3 episodes especially, you see the reversal. Anakin being as a teacher, knowing what he was doing with Obi-Wan, testing what I can get away with, what I can't get away with, and then having it done to him by his own Padawan. That's unique. That is unique. So
I could see
that's
that.
why I like these 3 episodes. I love that. I think
And
it's one of the best.
And Leia Rose brings up a good point here on the subject of Ahsoka lying. She says, would you not think that Anakin would know that Ahsoka was lying through the Force? Yeah, that kind of is a good point. And I think to a certain degree he did. But again, like I said, in the beginning, it was, when he realized that Ahsoka was there and she said her reasoning, both Anakin and Obi-Wan were like, okay, fine, we can't take you back only to come back here. You're with us, even though we didn't want you to be.
Like when Mom made you or Michael or Morgan take me somewhere.
Of course, you had to bring up embarrassing moments like that.
I want to
I
say
have
this.
plenty of
If
embarrassing
this
moments.
is okay, in my opinion, in this story, if the fortress, to me, the fortress itself wasn't as strong or hard to crack as they made it to be when they first were going there and telling us like she couldn't go along. I
Mhm.
think had it been even a little bit more tougher to crack, you might have been seeing why it was too hard. They felt it was too hard for her. Uh, you know, and like I said, it was a Jedi prison, and if I remember correctly, the Separatists took it over, and that's why the Separatists are in control of that prison.
Yes.
But it was purposely built to keep wayward Jedi's, like that started to turn evil. This was their prison. To me, it didn't look that tough, especially if
Mhm.
we're not a fully trained Jedi Knight to be in there. So, uh, in a way, I thought telling her she couldn't go. When you actually see the episode, you're like, it's not that tough. Had it been, like I said, had it been a little bit more tougher to crack and harder to get into, I think then you would have probably seen why, and maybe her character in the story would have seen why they didn't want her there. But
Well,
overall, it doesn't look, besides, I think the hardest thing wasn't even getting into prison. It was getting out of the prison, especially after the shuttle got blown up. And especially, and my one beef in this whole episode and all this is more lava. It couldn't have been water. It couldn't have been like an acid or something like that. It would have been cooler to have something different than lava.
I can I can kind of see where you're coming from here. And at first, because the way they made the lava look, obviously we look at Mustafar, that's a lava planet, and the lava looks orange.
Mhm.
This lava looked almost yellow, like my thing of Burt's Bees lotion here. It almost
Mhm.
looks this color.
Yeah, it was an abnormal cover. Maybe the lava on that planet is made up differently than normal lava.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the lava on Mustafar is at least the same shade of orange as my screwdriver here.
Mhm. But I would have seen it would have if the difficulty would have been better. Like I said, had it been like maybe a dangerous water pit that has the water is acid or something, would have made different, just something different than the normal lava look. The other thing is, I did like R2 having control of the droids. I thought that
Yeah,
was good humor, and I thought that was something good for R2 because now you see different abilities that R2 has. So,
exactly.
I
Now,
especially liked how Anakin didn't really want to associate with the droids and he got easily frustrated with them.
probably because he's so used to seeing those droids as the incompetent enemies that they are. But the fact that they used reprogrammed battle droids, that was something that made me wonder, why don't they do that more often? Like like if I was in charge of the Grand Army of the Republic and I knew that it was possible to capture droids, what I would do. Okay, so how about this? Go back to season 2. Remember the second battle of Geonosis where they had to take down those droid foundries?
yeah.
And it's a big battle that Anakin and Ahsoka, Obi-Wan and Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Luminara and Barriss are part of. Instead of them destroying that foundry, take it over and start making the droids for yourself and have
Well,
them fight alongside the clones.
Well, there is an episode, and I'm trying to remember what season it's in. Anakin and Obi-Wan go to this place, and there's a special not a separatist, but a special weapon, and it knocks them out, and they crash on a planet, and the boy on the planet has reprogrammed all the separatist
I know what it
droids.
is. I know what it is.
Yeah.
It was in season 1.
Mhm.
It was part of the Blue Shadow virus
Yeah.
arc.
And here's the thing, and I think maybe in their galaxy maybe the Separatists are constantly changing the signal or the programming of their droids, and this was maybe older set of three Separatist droids that they were able to use. It's just not something they're able to do over a long period of time. So
Right.
that's I know we're in gray area there. I think that's probably the reason, because why wouldn't you would say, well, they're droids, what machines, why wouldn't they just send a virus? Well, maybe they have virus protection that's always changing.
Of
So
course.
that's the only explanation I can give you on it.
Well,
If it makes sense. If it makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So one other thing I want to mention, kind of that I will fully admit I've kind of glossed over this whole time, is sort of the developing rapport, you might say, between Anakin and Tarkin, because obviously we know that the two of them work very closely together in the Empire, in A New Hope especially. But the fact that this is essentially where they first meet, that is huge.
Yeah.
And the fact that Tarkin's not acting very nice to the clones and Ahsoka, and Anakin's really not doing much to, like, in some ways he's agreeing with him. Like saying, for example, how Tarkin during the second episode stated that he admires, the design of the Citadel, and thought, it's a shame that this thing ended in the Separatist hands and not ours. And Ahsoka's mortified at this, is like, how can you look at something so horrible and see it as a good thing? And Tarkin's like, how can't you? And Anakin's like, yeah, you do kind of have a point.
I think Tarkin, and this I'm trying to give you an outlook of him. Tarkin is more the idea of clones. Let's get this straight. He does not like the idea of clones.
No.
Jedi, he don't want them involved in the war. If I personally think how the Empire does their things with their troops, getting regular people and recruiting, I think that's how he would, if he was in charge at that time, we would have them type of troopers as opposed to the clone troopers. Does he have knowledge about the chip in the clones? Maybe, and maybe that's why he's very distrusting of the clones.
I mean, he did say in this series that he is very close with the Chancellor.
Yeah, and so maybe he's already in that setup where he knows where this is going, and he has, let's just say, bias against Jedi and bias against the clones. Anakin, on his part, for me, the way I see Anakin, he's growing up. He's as a Padawan, especially, and now as a Jedi Knight. He's in war mode. You might see him as a Jedi, but let's just say this: he's in war mode.
Mhm.
So he has the respect of Tarkin because, okay, maybe he's says what he says and means what he says. In the military, you get told rules, you get told orders, and that's it. Period. Done. In the Jedi Order, you get a little conflicting things there. You get, his thoughts are Qui-Gon Jinn, there's gray area. Obi-Wan, no, there's no gray area. It's this or that. So I think he falls in the line with something that's more structure coming from Tarkin. This is how it is. This is what we do, and that's it. Period. If you see Tarkin, as he's going through the mission with them, he's not standing back. He's proving a point. I am better than you guys. I can.
Yeah,
do this.
he's always at the front of the stack most times.
He's not hiding behind the Jedi. He's not hiding behind the troopers. When it's time to fight, he's fighting. Period.
Mhm.
So, I don't want to say careless and reckless abandonment, but I think he's in the mode of leadership. So, and leaders go
Yes.
to the front. And I personally think If they came around a corner and everybody stood back and he had to fight, he wouldn't have a problem with it. I'm going forward and I'm going to fight.
Exactly.
So
And again, it just helps build him into the character that we know by the time that we see him in A New Hope.
So, like I said, in his speech with Ahsoka, even though Ahsoka has a lot of Anakin in her, she also has a little bit of influence of Obi-Wan and Master Poe. So when she hears him talk, she's not seeing as a person, yes, the Jedi are in the military. She's seeing Jedi as typical Jedi, keepers of the peace. Why would you want to do something or build something like this? Yeah, somebody might need to be here, but praising for something like that. In real life, we would be horrified. Someone saying, "Oh, this is a wonderful prison." A prison is not a wonderful place.
No, it is not.
So you already see the conflict going here, because now, like I said, she's horrified. Anakin is approving. Tarkin is, let's say, a Palpatine guy coming up in the ranks. So
Yeah.
you're already seeing the setup. You're already seeing the setup.
And speaking of that setup, they even have a conversation in the episode where Tarkin's saying, I'm very close with the Chancellor, and Anakin says, yeah, and I'm very close with the Chancellor too. Again, foreshadowing the fact that Vader will be the Emperor's right-hand man, and Tarkin will be one of the Emperor's most trusted military leaders.
Yeah. And
in fact, hot take, I would even say, personally, having not read any of the books associated with him except for barely Heir to the Empire, I would even say that the Emperor probably respected and trusted Tarkin more than Thrawn.
I think Thrawn still had that stigma as an alien.
Yeah.
Palpatine loved Thrawn. That was probably maybe one of his top 2 Grand Admirals. But he always had that thing with Thrawn. Thrawn is an alien.
Yes.
And that would always put him second. Even when Thrawn comes back in Heir of the Empire, you have to remember, at the time, the Empire remnant is only 40% of what it was at the Battle of Endor. Thrawn only had 20%. He didn't have the other 20. The other warlords didn't want to join him, didn't bother with him, and Thrawn ignored them. He only officially had 20% of the 40% that was left of the Empire. So, if you were to say to Palpatine, who's going to be the one that's going to have an attempt to bring back the Empire, he wouldn't say Thrawn. I don't think he would have thought Thrawn. I think personally, he would have thought Thrawn was okay. If he survived, he's going back to the Chiss. He's done. Having him come back and do what he did in them Empire books shows him. And from what I understand, if I remember correctly, in the EU, Thrawn was not liked by the Moffs and the other people in the Empire. There was very few, because he was an alien. The only one that kind of liked him was Anakin.
Right. In fact, going back to the first Heir to the Empire book, Captain Piell always seemed to have a lot of apprehension about Thrawn. Now, I haven't gotten far enough into the book to know whether or not it was because he's an alien, but he always just seemed nervous around him.
Yeah, and you have to remember, he in the book, when you get to the first Heir of the Empire book, I can't say his name. The second command,
Piell.
Yeah, he's not originally the second in command of Thrawn. Originally, there was another one, and the starship was called the Dominator. And when Thrawn leaves in the EU to go to the unknown regions, he takes that, along with other Star Destroyers. That captain and that Star Destroyer never comes back. Does not come back. When he comes back and he arrives on the Chimera with Captain P. I want that's abbreviated name.
Fair enough.
He arrives by a shuttle. So
Yes.
yeah, like I said, you see the dynamics of it, and when you're going back to the episodes here, you see the buildup of this, and you see the why. The funny thing is, in this whole most of this episode, you don't hear any comment coming from Obi-Wan. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't hear anything. There's not that typical Obi-Wan wisecrack comment. You know, you think if he would have heard what Ahsoka heard, he would have been stepping back and saying, what did you say? You see what I'm saying? It's unique that the conversation was being held like Tarkin was only willing to talk to Ahsoka and Anakin, but he had no respect or even talking to anything with Obi-Wan. So that shows you right there. Maybe some of this mission was, this is hypothetical and me guessing, part of the reason he went there was maybe Palpatine wanted to have Tarkin there during the mission so he can influence Anakin and maybe Ahsoka.
Who knows?
Yeah,
But anyways,
like
getting back to the story, like real quick, actually, Alice83 Ashley says it's cool to see different views from different people about the Jedi. Satine thinks the Jedi do too much, and Tarkin thinks they don't do too much. Yeah, that is a good point. So, back with the story, like I said, even Piell dies. He gets attacked by those bloodhounds, we'll call them, and they wrap him up and basically put him in the lava. That's pretty much the best that they can do with what they have. And so the survivors keep going, and they reach the extraction point, and they have to hold off an assault from the remaining droids and the warden himself. He's on the pursuit now. But they manage to hold him off long enough for Plo Koon and the other Jedi to rescue them. Although, before that happens, the warden tries to jump Tarkin, but before he can kill Tarkin, Ahsoka kills the warden. And so Tarkin looks at Ahsoka and gives her the most unsincere thank you that I have ever heard in any show. Like, he literally says, "My thanks to you," and just leaves it at that. Like, you would think, like, his most human response would be like, "Thank you for saving my life," you know?
Like, you could literally have more sincerity out of thanks.
Exactly.
I think it's a classic example that we see later on, and especially definitely was in the EU books of Imperial I don't want to use discrimination, but hatred of aliens. And Ahsoka was an alien.
You're right.
Had it been Anakin or maybe Obi-Wan, I don't think he would have respected a clone if it would have saved him. But had it been Anakin or Obi-Wan, I think that it might not been really heartfelt, but the thank you would have been more realistic. Whereas with Ahsoka, it's like thinking, I don't want to do this to treat bad, but treating like a dog doing it protecting you. And you really don't care about that dog, you know? Thank you, dog. All right, I'll give you a bone.
Yes.
I think that's the attitude you have to remember, because when the Empire fully comes in control, that's the attitude, the Tarkin attitude. Humans, okay. Everybody else, they're just secondary. So I think that's the start. That gives you an example of it when he does that with Ahsoka.
Like, there's no alien stormtroopers.
After Thrawn takes the part of the Empire over, we do have alien stormtroopers, but like I said, that's EU.
Yeah.
So,
Like I
but
said,
yeah.
John, I have those Heir to the Empire books here.
Mhm.
I meant to give them to you on the way back from visiting Michael, but I'll give them to you here. I'll give them
Oh,
to you
and I
tonight.
had to be corrected. With Thrawn, it's not also aliens he uses, but he started to because the Empire was his. Remember, he only controls 20% of the 40% of the Empire. He
Mhm.
clones people, so
Yeah.
there's clones again. They're not clones of Jango Fett, but clones of people in military service under the Empire. So you get clones back, and you get aliens joining the Empire.
Yes. So, so everyone is completely rescued. They make it back to Coruscant, and here's where we find a bit of a wrinkle, where now Ahsoka and Tarkin each have half of the necessary information that they need. But Ahsoka was made a promise to Master Piell that that she was only going to tell it to the Council, whereas Tarkin was under orders to tell it only to the Chancellor. So Yoda says, "Okay, I'm going to go talk to the Chancellor, and we'll find out what's best to do from there." And that's pretty much the end of that story arc. However, before the episode ends, Tarkin shakes hands with Anakin and says, "It was nice working with you. I appreciate the way that you think, as far as military strategy goes. Oh, and by the way, hello to Brandon, the anime guy. Thank you for joining us." And here's the thing. He says all of that to Anakin and shakes Anakin's hand, yet never says a word to Obi-Wan. And
Yeah,
then
it's like the
as soon as Tarkin leaves, Obi-Wan's like, "I don't know that I like that guy." But Anakin's like, he does have a point. This is war. We need to do whatever it takes to win. But then Obi-Wan's like, "But at the cost of our honor." And that's how the episode ends.
the other thing that you missed out was when Anakin asked Jedi Master Poe if he did assign Ahsoka to the mission
And Plo Koon basically covers for her,
for her.
saying, "Yeah, I did."
Yep. Which is funny because you can't really see the look on his face because his face has no, with the mask and that little thing in his eyes, you don't really see it. But he kind of looks over. You get the impression he's looking at Ahsoka like, "Okay, I'm going to cover for you here,"
Mm-hmm.
type deal. So it's even though we don't call Poe her like a Jedi teacher for her, she kind of has that attachment because he was the one to discover her and kind of looked out for her as she was growing up.
Plo's like the cool uncle,
Yeah.
at least
Whereas
in this episode.
Anakin, the only person after Qui-Gon he has is Obi-Wan. There's not really, I mean, you can say the Emperor / Palpatine is the other person, but Ahsoka still has like a bond, and I even say even stronger with him than she has with Anakin, in my belief.
To a certain degree.
Yeah, and like I said, you see how far he's willing to grow because he covered for her, and that's important to note. To see that part that okay, he's a Jedi Master. My master's a Jedi Knight, and I don't want to say she kind of got him to rub the wrong way, but he came in and saved her. So yeah, I think that's very important to see that with Ahsoka. So
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Oh, also, Alice says in the Empire theme comes on at that moment. Yes, it does. And Brandon says, "Good to see y'all. Got a jet." Understandable, man. We're about to wrap it up ourselves. So overall, this was a great arc. The Mortis arc is still my favorite, but this one is definitely a solid arc. What do you guys think?
You go ahead and go first, Joe.
So, I just think that an answer to an earlier question of why didn't they reprogram the battle droids is because it's more trouble than it's worth, and the Galactic Republic sort of made all this propaganda about battle droids being the enemy, which is also the same reason the Empire used stormtroopers who were volunteers instead of battle droids.
Right. Which makes complete sense.
So it was already ingrained in them, that's the enemy. And even in some of the trilogy and prequel trilogy, there is stuff out there. They don't trust droids. They don't let droids into Mos Eisley bar. We don't serve your kind here. Bye. So there's like I said, where there's a prejudice against aliens, there's prejudice against androids. Let's just put it that way. So, but as far as the episode and everything, for me, the Clone Wars represent the last of the good writing coming from Lucas. This arc right here, for me, I'm with you, Paul. It's up there with the Mortis arc. I might even rank him 1A, 1B, maybe even closer. I love this arc. I love the story in it. Like I said, you don't get that today, and it just shows classic example of what we had and what made Star Wars great. And this episode had it all. So
yes. So before we go, a couple housekeeping things I want to mention. Number one, next week, no Animation Friday because I will be by then in Nashville at the ICC convention with everybody. So no Animation Friday then. We'll pick it back up the week after where we will be closing out season 3 with I'm going to call it the Chewbacca arc because Ahsoka meets Chewbacca in this one. And remind me, John, Michael comes home Michael comes home May 5th?
May 5th, so 2 weeks.
Okay, good.
I know I have to miss school for it.
Yeah, I need to put a note for that at work. I just remembered.
I need to get the dates for that so I can tell my teachers.
Yes. But anyways, if everything goes well and if he is up for it, Sunday, May 8th, our Sunday stream will be our big welcome back, Michael stream. So
it all ended on a Sunday. It's starting back on a Sunday.
Yep. So make sure to subscribe so you guys won't miss any of that. Also, one other thing, this coming Tuesday on Tuesday Night Trek, we are reviewing The Best of Both Worlds, which is the finale of Season 3 and the beginning of Season 4. And as long as everything goes to plan, Echo Base Network should be joining us on that one. So just like Everest says here, hit that sub button. I just realized something, Crit. Crit, how are you? Okay. Crit is a mod. I'd forgotten that I had given her a wrench. Okay. Because if you hadn't, I was going to give you one, but you already have one, so we're good. So I guess, guys, nothing else to say other than that, but thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. I think we're going to do a gaming stream after all tonight. It's not going to be Skyrim tonight. We are taking a break.
Lego Star Wars?
No, it's not going to be Lego Star Wars either. Let me see. Let me look at my
Lego Star Wars yet?
No, I don't.
# justice for Skyrim. Play more Skyrim.
I know, but
Before we
I
go-
can't play it every single time. I gotta change it up every now and then.
I understand, but
We're gonna tell you what, we're gonna keep it in the Star Wars theme, and we're gonna do Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay. Can I have a suggestion before we go?
And yes, Crit, if you want to do a watch party with Phil, since I'm not playing with Skyrim, I'm sure Phil would oblige that. What's up,
nope,
John?
How about we react to the Sonic Origins trailer? If that's something we can do.
I've already seen it,
Oh,
and I don't think there's enough there to react to. But I
All right.
appreciate the thoughts.
I just know I'm pre-ordering that.
Me too. All right, so yeah, like I said, make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And remember, everyone, the Force is family. And we will see you guys later.